Hey, what's going on, guys? In today's video, I'm going to show you how to actually make this book tracker 2025 from an absolutely blank spreadsheet to this. So I'm going to take you through all the steps, how you make this table, how you make this status bar, how you make these ratings, a genre, drop-down lists, all these slicers and everything completely from scratch in this video. So just before we start, if you don't want to make it and you just want to download this template, the template will be down in the description. And now we'll get into the video. So if you want to skip ahead to just getting started with the spreadsheet, there'll be a timestamp in the description below. So step 0, if this is your first time looking at this spreadsheet, just to give a brief overview of what it does. In this book tracker, we have a table where you can input your book name, who wrote the book, who recommended you the book, the start date, the end date, the current page, and the total page. And this is useful, let's say if you're reading and you're only at 150 pages out of 349, this status bar will update depending on how many pages you have left, and it will turn green whenever it hits 100%. Next, we have this status drop down bar, which you can have in must read, did not finish, not started, reading, and finish for whenever you finish reading the book. Then you also have a 5-star rating that you can put after you're done reading the book. And then also you have the option to put what type of genre. And then lastly, who should read this book. Next, we have the graphs up here. So they all automatically update whenever you finish a book. And then lastly, we have these slicers, which basically are filters. So let's say if you wanted to filter by the status. So maybe I want to see the books which I have finished. If I press OK, you'll see all the books that you finished. Let's say you want to see all the books that you must read. So I have one book which I must read. And if you want to bring it back, you can select everything and it brings it all back. This is also good, like let's say if you're searching by genre, then you want to see what are your business books. Shows you the 2 business books that you read. So this is really, really cool. And also the genre list, you can update it if you would like in this tab down here called the genre list. So if let's say I want to edit like non-fiction and fiction, you can come back to the dashboard and notice how now you have non-fiction and fiction, and you can further edit it to add color to the choices. Press done, apply to all, and now when you come back, they're right there. But I'm just going to undo that. So that is this spreadsheet in a nutshell. So now let's get into actually making it. Okay, now getting started. This is the color palette that we'll be using. Here are the codes and here are the colors. So next we have the steps that I'll showcase in this video. So these are roughly the steps. We'll first go through how to make the table, how to do the formulas such as the progress bar. Then we'll add in the graphs, and finally we'll format everything once and for all to make it look nice. So let's start off by making a new sheet by pressing the add sheet button. We can rename this to dashboard, and we can also add a little color, brown, to make it look nice. First, let's add in the table. So let's go to row 19, and first we need our book name, we need our author, recommended by, start date, end date, current page, total number of pages, status bar, and then we need to skip one. This will be, for example, our percentage sign, so we can just leave it there. Later on we'll get rid of it, but just leave it there. We need our status drop down bar, we need our rating drop down bar, we need our genre drop down bar, and lastly, who should read this book. Okay, now I don't like how the font is looking, so I'm just going to change that right now. I can come up here and select everything by clicking this, and I like to use the font Roboto, and I'm going to leave the font size as 10, and I'm going to bold all these headers. Control B. Now, just to showcase it easily, I'm going to put in one book example. The Book Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins, recommended by Ricky. Start date, let's just say I started January 1st, 2025. Ended January 31st, 2025. Let's say I'm at page 0 for 310. Status bar, I'll put that in later. The percentage, so we know that the percentage will basically be this cell divided by the total number of pages. Press enter. So when this updates, let's say we're at 310, should be 1. So to change this to percentage, we can come up here, press format as percentage, and then we can get rid of the decimal places so it looks a little bit better. And then while we're here, we might as well do the status bar. So to do the status bar, we can type in sparkline this, that's our data. And how do we want the progress bar to look like? Well, we want the chart type to be a bar. and we want the max to be 1. And I forgot to put quotes over here. Okay, we want the max to be 1. We want the min to be 0. And we want the color 1 to be green. Close this off. There we have it. So when we lower it to, let's say 155, which percent, it'll do that. So then how do we make it purple when it's not 100%? What we can do is we can type if cell, which is I20, if I20 equals 1, which means 100%, we want it to be green. However, if it's not, we want it to purple. So we just paste the exact same sparkline formula and change the green to purple. Press enter. Okay, I did something wrong here. Okay, I just need to put a close bracket here so that this will all close off. Press, and there's one too many brackets here. Press enter. There we have it. So when this increases, it'll increase, and when I get to close, 310, turn green. Perfect. Next, we need to put our status drop down bars. So to do that, we can insert drop down right here. And then we can put in our options: finished, reading, not started, DNF, must. And then we can put in the colors. So green, reading can be yellow, did start, gray, DNF, it's red, and must read, I'll make it purple. This color, and press done. So now we have the options, finished reading. Now the rating is using a star. So to do that, we can go online and search for a star emoji, copy the star emoji, Control C, and then we can go back to our sheet and we can paste it in, and that's how you get a star emoji into your sheet. So now we're going to insert a drop down, and we'll do 1 star, 2 star, 3 star, 4 star, and 5 star. I'll make the 5 star green, 4 star yellow, 3 star yellow, 2 star red, 1 star red. It's done. There we have it. Now we can double click here so that the stars all get viewed. Now we can add in our genre list. So the genre list, we want it to be dynamic, meaning that we want people to be able to customize their own genres. So what we're going to do first is create a new sheet. We'll call this genre list, and then I'm just going to give this a little blue color. And up top, we're just going to make a very simple genre list header. Control B to bold it, and then we'll add here all the way to 100. I don't think anyone will have more than 100 genres, and we'll just make this green, add a border so people know they can add a genre list here. Make sure you give a border up here as well. And now we can just add in our genres. So I'm just going to copy and paste it for the sake of time. We have a genre list here, and I'm just going to select this header and make it center aligned, so everything's center aligned. And we'll just add instructions saying to add your own genres to the genre, please enter/remove the genre in the green cell A to A100. So that just makes it very easy for people to understand how to use this genre list. I'll just bold this and center it as well, using the shortcuts Control B and Control E. Another pro tip, you can turn off the grid lines and show grid lines to make it look a little cleaner. So now we can go back to our dashboard and finally add in our genre list. So to do that, we can insert drop down, and we can come to the criteria and select drop down from a range. So we can click this rectangle window over here, select the data range so we can go back to our genre. So we can come to our genre list and click and drag down all the way to the last green cell. Now press OK, and now it automatically adds in all the genres. So I'm just going to give them random colors so that it looks nicer. And now press done. So now if we go back to our genre list, all the genres are looking nice and colorful. So Can't Hurt Me is probably life advice. Double click up here to resize it. Now, who should read this book? I'm just going to put some copy text so that we can work with, and double click M right here so that it automatically resizes. So now we're done with our table. Now we don't need these extra cells, so we're gonna go click the end header and press Control Shift right arrow key, and we're gonna delete all these columns because we don't need it. And now I'm going to select the entire sheet, and I'm going to center align everything so it looks a little bit nicer. I'm going to make these cells bigger around there. Start date and end date can be a little smaller. These can also be sized. This can be a little bit smaller. And what I'm going to do with this column of cells, I'm going to wrap the text so that the text doesn't get cut off. Another thing is I'm going to vertically middle align. So everything's in the middle now. And I'm going to select 20, press Control Shift down. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to adjust it like this so that all cells below get resized automatically. I think this looks good. So now I think we can start adding some color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to the header here, select it, press Control Shift down, down again. And I'm going to come up to, but first I'll scroll up so you guys can see what's happening. I'm going to go to formatting and alternating colors. So now it'll automatically add in some type of formatting for you. I'm going to use the colors that I have at the beginning. That's a bit too dark. I'm going to do this. And for this one, I'm going to use a light brown color. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now we can press done. So now all the cells have alternating colors. Now we can copy down the status bar. So to do this, we can actually simply drag all the way down, but that would take a very long time. So what you can do instead, a little shortcut, is you can type sequence. Let's say we'll have 500 books. Sequence will basically create numbers all the way from 1 to 500 automatically. And let's just cut off the spreadsheet right here because I think we only have 500 books. We won't have so many. And we can go back up and now we can double click and it'll copy down the formula. But notice how it's saying NA, which we'll just fix in a moment. So we need to copy down this one as well. So now we have our 0%. And these are not showing just because we need to put in data. Only when you put in data, then will actually show. So we have the status bar working and we have this percentage working, which we can delete the top part. These ones we need to copy down as well. So we can actually just copy all three and press. Notice how they all copy down what you had in the first place. So to fix that, we can Control Z. We can just press the delete key. It won't delete the drop down, but it'll just delete the choice. So now we can double click this and now all be copied down automatically. And then these all will be empty. However, we do want these two rows or columns, should I say, to be in a date format. We can just select these two, press Control Shift down, and we can set as a date format. So I don't like that date format, so you can change it to however you like. For the sake of this video, we'll do something which is easy to see. So we're just going to leave it in that format with the year so you guys can see what's going on. Then now we can actually get rid of our grid lines. So all these grid lines, they look a little bit ugly. So we can go to View, Show, and Grid Lines. Click on Grid Lines. Now we can add our background color actually by selecting cells to this. So now we're starting to get somewhere. So we can go ahead and delete this formula up here. And notice how they cause error. This is because this percentage cell is dependent on these two cells. However, it's empty. And likewise, this status bar is dependent on this cell. So if this is an error, this will also be an error. So to simply fix this, we can simply adjust the formula. So to fix this, we can start with this cell. So we have this. We can remove it first and we can say if this cell, G21, is blank. So we need to use the is blank function. So if it's blank, then we want this progress percentage to be empty as well. However, if it's not blank, we will use the formula which we originally had. So we can press enter. So now we can see that is blank. And when you put in a number here, it'll show up the percentage. So to fix the status bar, basically we can do the exact same thing, saying come here, press Control X, and then now we can type in our formula if, and we'll do the current page. If F21 is blank, you want the progress bar to be empty. Otherwise, do the formula that I originally had. So now they're both empty. So when we put in our total number of pages, because this is what we're going to put in first, since if we're reading a book, we type in how many pages it had. Let's say we have 500. So now we'll have our percentage there. Then now if we start reading our book, it'll start updating properly. Make sure you don't put in a wrong number. And there we go. Works perfectly fine. So now what we can do is just drag this up so that the first cells have the same formula as well. And now we can remove these two formulas which don't work anymore. And we can copy it down. So if you double click, it doesn't copy down properly. So we have to use the sequence tactic. And now we can double click this and it gets copied down, and double click this and it gets copied down. And perfect. Now we can remove this formula. So if you're ever unsure where you had put a formula and it's showing empty, what you can do is you can use the shortcut Control backtick. So backtick is the single quote looking button that's usually with the escape button or near there. So this is it. So show all formulas is Control backtick. So this helps you to know where you put formulas if you forgot. So you can just do the shortcut again to remove it, and we'll remove these total number of pages. So now we can start adding in our graphs. So to make our graphs work, we'll also need more data. So I'm just gonna copy more data from my template. So I went ahead and copied in data, and it's always good to fill in data because you need to see what is working and what is not working. So right now, a lot of things were unformatted the way I wanted. So we can just select everything and center align everything, make sure everything's vertically aligned as well. And we'll have everything wrapped. So I don't like how this total page is 2 lines. So I'm just gonna make that bigger. I can make now this smaller, a lot smaller. And also I would like to bold this, and notice how some cells are being cut off. Make this bigger, make this bigger. Just make sure everything's looking okay. I don't like how this is 3 lines, so I'm gonna these ABC a little bit bigger. And for this cell, I'll make it such that it is left aligned, except for the header. I want that center aligned. There we go. So now for the fun part of actually adding in graphs. So the first part is we're gonna add a little title. So what we can do is we can insert a drawing, and we're just gonna insert a simple text bubble like this, make the background white, and we don't need border, transparent. And now we book tracker 25 by champion challenge. Then we can change the font to Roboto, make this bold and make it a lot bigger, just like this. Make this smaller, and you'd make it a little bit lighter, and press save and close. Very nice. If you ever need to edit, you can come back in here. This is better. There we go, that's perfect. Now, firstly, let's add in a pie chart right here. So we can come up to insert chart, and we can select the chart type to pie chart. Now, we want to view the different genres. So we can come over here to the date range, delete that, and click on the window. Now select your date range. So we're gonna come over to the genre list, select the first cell, and press Control Shift down. This selects the first few cells, but we want to select all these future cells so that whenever they get filled out, it'll update in the pie chart. So we're going to press Control Shift down again, and it'll select it all the way to the bottom. Press OK. Now we can scroll back up. Now what we want to do is press aggregate. But now, as you can see, it showcases the total breakdown. Now to make it look a little bit better, what we can do is we can change the background color to be the same background color as the sheet here. Go chart. We can get rid of the border, and then we'll come to a pie slice. And now what we can do is we can change the color so they match the theme a lot better. So do this from here, and then we can select another color. Select another shade. You can just press add a custom color, go to the brownish color, and then select a different type of shade for every single one. And then that's how you can get all your pie chart slices to look good together. Maybe I'll make this a little darker like that. Come over here. I like the darker shade. Last one, maybe make it a little bit browner, just like that. And there we have it. So you can play with that a little bit to get the colors to your liking. Next, I want all these labels to be on the left side. So you can always just double click on what you want to change in the chart, and it'll automatically pop up settings. So that's called the legend. So right now that looks exactly how I like it. Now we just need a title for this chart. So we can come up to chart and axis title. We can call it genre. And then what we can do is we can bold it, center align it. And then as usual, we can change it to our favorite colors. Now we have a beautiful pie chart. We can just adjust it. Next, I want to put some scorecards over here, which says our total books finished and our total pages read. So we can do this by going to insert chart, and we can scroll down to our scorecard chart. Now we're just going to place it here for now. So we need a data or a cell with the data that we're going to use in the chart. So actually what we can do is we can just put the data right here in cell A10 or wherever you like. We're just basically going to hide the data behind the scorecard. So we need the total books finished. So to do that, we just need to use a function called countIf. So we're going to count the number of cells which contain finished. So where are we going to count it from? We're going to count it from this cell first, and then we're going to go press Control Shift down again, scroll back up. So this range, and from this range, if any of them equal finished, we will count it. So press enter, and just like that, we have 15. So now we can come back to our scorecard over here, just double click it. We can delete our data range, select the window and select the cell with our data and press OK. So now whenever the data changes, it will automatically update. So that's working perfectly. So now what we can go ahead is we can hide it just like this. Very nice. And now we can start setting the color of our scorecard over into our chart style. Select the background color, select it to this background color, remove the chart border. So now it looks like this. Now we can give it a name. We can come to chart and axis title. Let's call it total books finished. And we can bold this, and we're going to change the title font to Roboto and change the color as usual. Now, perfect. We have one scorecard done. Next, we're going to create another scorecard with the total pages read. So the total pages is the summation of this current page column. So we can do the same thing here. And instead of using COUNTIF, we can just do sum. So we're getting the summation of this cell all the way down to the very bottom. Scroll back up. Close this and press enter. 3922. So whenever you update your pages, it'll automatically update just like that. So now we can select this cell, little shortcut, and then press this insert chart button. Come back down to the scorecard chart, 3922, exactly what we want. And we can resize it over here, just like so. And we can do the same thing, changing the background color and removing the chart border, and then adding a title. Let's call it total pages read. And then we can bold it, change the font title to Roboto, text color. There we have it. We're getting very close to finishing this dashboard. So next, I want to add a chart which shows me the number of books I read per month. So January, how many books did I read? February, how many books did I read? So to do this, we're going to insert a line chart right here, a line chart. And now we're just gonna resize it a little bit. Now for the data range, we can select the end dates. Control Shift down all the way and press OK. But notice how the chart isn't really giving us what we want, even when we try to adjust it. It doesn't give us the number of books we read per month. We need to be able to group the books by month, because you see right now it's splitting it up by the date. So to fix this, we need a different data range to use, to pull from. So what we can actually do is we can create a new sheet. We can call it data for chart, and we can give it a little color for fun. And the data that we want, so this is going to be for our books read per month chart, so that we can stay organized a little bit. So now I want to make a pivot table. So select your entire table by selecting the headers, pressing Control Shift down again, insert pivot table. And we want to put this on an existing sheet. So we want to place it right here. Press OK, press create. Now we want the rows to be filled with the months. So we can simply drag the end date to the rows. So now we have all the dates. Now we want to group it by the month. So the secret to doing that, selecting the data in the pivot table, create pivot date group, and select month. So not a lot of people know about this. Then now we can come back to the settings here. We can get rid of the totals. We don't need that. And add in our value, which will be the status. And then there we have it. Now we have the count. We also have an empty count. We don't want that. So we're going to add a filter for the end date, and we'll filter by condition. Cell is not empty. Press OK, and there we have it. Now we can just change this title and it won't mess up anything. Number of books read, and we can change this to month. And then we can, just to make it easier for us to know how much space this table is going to take up, August, September, October, November, December, to here. Create our borders, and there we go. And we can actually center align this if we would like. I think that looks a lot better. So now we can close this. So now let's say we have a new book, and let's say we finish it September 2025. Now when we come back to our data for charts, it will show up. So that is perfect, just what we want. So I'm just going to get rid of this for now, come back to our data charts, and now we can finally go back to our graph here, which will be the number of books read per month. We can double click on this chart, go to setup, change the data range, press the window, and go back to your data for charts and select this entire table. So notice how the borders tell us how much we need to select. Very useful. Press OK. So now we can set the x-axis to be the month, uncheck aggregate, add series for the number of books. So now we're starting to get somewhere. So now we can finally format it. So I'm just going to change the background color as usual, remove the borders. I'm going to smooth it out so it looks a little bit better. Change the font to Roboto, and then I'm going to call the chart book read per month. Make it bold, center align, change the title color. And I'm going to get rid of these lines. So I just double click on them and I'm going to get rid of them. And I want to be able to see the points. So I'm going to add series, and I'm going to change the line color to green. And I'm going to add my point size to 7. And I want some error bars. So error bars, you see how this point is kind of like flying off the graph already? If I add some error bars, then now you can view it completely. So I'm going to add the percentage as 1, just like this. I'm going to add data labels so it's easy to see how many books you're reading per month. Very, very cool. And there we have it for this chart. So if you ever want to change anything like the font, you can just double click on it. The settings for it will automatically show up for you. So last but not least, I want to add a chart here called books read in D5. So I want to see the accumulation of how many books I read throughout the year. So to do that, we're going to insert a chart. And for this chart, I want it to be an area chart. I think that looks a little bit better. So I'm just going to place it right over here for now. And then now we need our data. So our data, we need some type of data which tells us, okay, in January, we read this amount of books. And then in February, we read 4 plus 2. So now we have 6 books. And then in March, we read 1 plus the previous 6. So now we have 7. So I want this chart to be showing the accumulation, kind of like a hill. So it looks pretty cool. So right now we need to make this data because we don't have this data stored anywhere. So to do that, we're going to come back to our data for chart. And we're just going to place the data over here because we know that this data will only take up this amount of space. So we're going to call this books read in 2025. Bold it, make it look nice. And what I want is I want a serial number just to keep track. I want the date. And I want the total books. So what I'm going to do here is you can follow along and then I'll explain it afterwards. So I'm going to start this at 0 and then sequence 500. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just create borders and center align this so just so it's easier for work with. And I'm actually going to create a 501 just in case and create a border. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to set the beginning date to January 1st manually and set the total books read to 0. And I'm just going to bold the headers because I'm right here. Why not? And I'm going to highlight this and Control C, and then I'm going to copy it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste as values only. So it gets rid of the sequence formula. So now these are actual values. Now this is where the fun starts. So basically I want this to be my own little manual pivot table or automatic pivot table. It's not exactly a pivot table, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the dates and I'm going to place them. What I mean by that, I want to get all these end dates and place them right here. So I can do that with a little function called filter. And then I'm going to go back to the dashboard and I'm going to select this end date all the way to the bottom, press comma, and I have a condition. I want it to return the data if the data itself does not, this is the not symbol, so it's the opposite of equals, whoops, it's the opposite of equals, if it's not empty, and press enter. So this now will get me all the dates. And then one more thing, I want to sort. Why do I want to sort this? 'Cause let's say, for example, in my dashboard, let's say I completed this book after I completed this book. So let's say this, I finished it on April 10, and this one I finished after April 13. So notice when I change that, it'll show up here April 13, April 10, but I want this to be in order so that the data in my chart looks good. And one more thing, make sure this is the same year. So I'm just gonna change this right now, and we'll just make it look better by selecting this, changing format to this. There we go. Notice how the dates are not in sequence. So to do that, we can come up to our function over here, type in sort. This is our range. Sort column, which is just 1, and is ascending, true. Press enter. Now these have switched. So now whenever we enter a new end date, let's say over here September 30th, we come back here, it'll automatically be placed. So I'm just gonna remove that for now. Come back here, and then now the total book's read. So basically, very simply, whenever there's an end date means that I've read another book. So all I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take previous number and add 1. And then now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna double click. But one thing that's very important to take note, when I double click, it only copied the formula down to here. So if I view my formulas using control backtick, it only copied down to there, but I need this formula to go all the way, because this will automatically update, but I need this to go all the way down. So what I am going to do is I'm going to use that little hack I taught you. I'm just going to do sequence 500, and I'm going to double click. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all these. Oops, I'm going to select this sequence right here, delete this. I'm gonna go back all the way down because I know it went a little bit extra, and I'm gonna delete this, get rid of the borders, and there we go. Formula's all the way down here. So now we got this formula going all the way down. However, we don't want it to show if there's no date here. So we need to add a little control X first. We need to add a little if is blank, if what is blank. If this cell is blank, we don't want anything here. Otherwise, do what I told you to do just now. And then all we need to do is just copy this formula up all the way to 1, not 0, but 1, and copy this formula all the way down. So I'm going to do sequence 500 again, delete all these, come back up, and then double click. And now if I delete this, and then I just need to delete these extra borders right here, then now I'll have the function all the way to the very end. And you can just use your arrow keys to see if they are properly there, and while taking a look at the function header here. So now if you add a new date, I'm just going to add it manually so you can see that it works. It'll automatically update. Perfect. Now we can finally go back to our chart here, edit chart, and now we can input our data range. So we can go to data for charts and select date, total books read, control shift down all the way, and press OK. Now we need to remove the date from the series, and we want the x-axis to be the date. So now we're starting to get somewhere. So now we just need to change up the colors a little bit. So we set the background color to this. No chart border. We can make it smooth. We can get rid of these lines here by just clicking on them. So major grid lines, no thank you. Major grid lines, no thank you. And then we can add this by changing the color. And then we can add some point size, 7, and we can add our data labels, our error bars to 1%. Okay, and now we can just chart a little bit bigger. Next, to add a title for it. So my audio got cut off, so I'll just be voice overing the last part of this video. So basically what I'm explaining here is naming the chart title. So I called it Books Read in 2025, and then after that you can resize it however you like. And over here, I'm just changing the series to 10% so that you can see everything in the chart. It's just now got cut off a little bit. But as you can see now, the chart updates automatically whenever you update your data in the table. So the last thing that we have to do is just put in our slicers. So what is a slicer? It's basically like a filter. So for that, we can go to our menu bar and then click on Insert Slicer. So as you can see here, we can adjust this, the size, and then after that, we can set the column to be first our status. Make sure you have applied to pivot tables checked, and then we can go to customize and set the font and the color. I'm also going to change the font color to almost black and make it bold. So now when I try the filters, if let's say I adjust it, we can see all the DNFs. However, we also see the blanks. So to fix this, just make sure that the data range is correct. So as you can see, I'm fixing it here. And then now when I try out the slicer again, it works perfectly. So now all you have to do is select the slicer, press Ctrl C and then Ctrl V to copy and paste the slicer, and then change the column to be rating, and then we'll do one more for genre as well. So I'm just speeding this up a little bit because it's the exact same steps. All you need to take note is that in order for your pie chart to not look weird or anything, just go and edit and click include hidden / filter data so it looks normal, and then close that out and then reset your filters. So that is how you make this book tracker 2025. So once again, this template can be downloaded in the description below. And if you have anything you want me to do or like me to make, template, video, or anything, just leave a comment down below and I'll be sure to reply. Thank you so much for watching my video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.